Hi, and welcome to Financial Accounting. My name's Susan Krish, and I'll be your instructor for this class. Now, you may have not stopped to think about it, but accounting is actually everywhere in the world around you. If you stopped at a cafe to buy a cup of coffee this morning, accounting is going to be involved in that. If you drove to work and filled up your car with gas, accounting is going to be involved in that. Maybe at some point you joined a gym to work out at lunch or after work. Again, accounting is going to be involved in that. So whether or not you've stopped to think about it before, you've actually been involved with accounting systems on a daily basis. Financial accounting is the system that collects that information, records that information, summarizes that information, and tries to communicate that information for a business to interested parties like its investors and its creditors. So accounting really ends up being the language of business. I'm going to encourage you to think about that and keep that in mind as we go through this course. So as with learning any foreign language, we're going to learn some vocabulary, we're going to learn the grammar and the structure that underlies accounting, and we're going to have a lot of practice at communicating key pieces of financial information about a business. So a lot of the time when people think about accountants, they tend to think about some guy with green eye shades, leaning over an adding machine, scowling maybe a little bit at the numbers that are taking place. But that stereotype also doesn't tend to be true of accountants. So I am an accountant. I happen to be a chartered accountant from Canada. And I went into accounting with, to a large extent, with a great interest in psychology along the way, which you may not normally think of accounting and psychology going together. But my professional experience started with Ernst & Young in the Greater Toronto area. But because of my interest in psychology and decision-making, I decided to go back to the academic side. So I spent a couple of years at my alma mater, which is the University of Waterloo, about an hour outside of Toronto, before starting my PhD, which is a research-based degree, and I went to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. After that, I went to the University of Illinois, where I spent several years teaching and doing research. But I had the opportunity to come to Washington, D.C. to go to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission as an academic fellow with the Office of the Chief Accountant. So I discovered that I loved D.C. and wanted to come back. So while I did go to the University of Illinois for one more year, I moved back to D.C., where I joined the Kogod School of Business at American University, and that's where I've been ever since. Along the way, I did become a U.S. citizen, which is something I'm very proud of. Now, let's get back to accounting. The other half of my academic life, in addition to teaching, I do research. The research that I look at is judgment and decision-making in accounting situations. So that involves looking at investors or analysts and how they make sense of that financial accounting information. So my goal for this class is to help you start to make sense of that financial accounting information as well. The way I've structured the class, you're going to have lots of practice at this. So each week you'll read some assigned chapters, you'll work through the online materials, and in part for those materials you'll be going through some practice questions. Now as you do that, every once in a while I'm going to stop and encourage you to take a step back and really think about the information that's being presented and how you might interpret that information as you're looking at a business. Now, once we have those materials prepared, in your live sessions, we'll be trying to synthesize those concepts. So we'll be applying them to maybe some more complex situations or critical thinking exercises. At the end of each week, you'll have some homework questions to really try to make sure that you've understood the application of those fundamental concepts. So how would you best succeed in this class? Be active. Be active in the preparation, be active in the participation in your preparation exercises and in your live sessions. So I hope you enjoy your introduction to financial accounting as you begin to explore the world of information that financial accounting can bring to business. Thank you.